This morning, we are throwing it back, way back to 1853 and U.S. President Franklin Pierce. If you've never heard of him, that's okay. Neither had our next guest until he started researching supernatural activity. The Residence is Andrew Pyper's fictional spin on the very real seances conducted inside the walls of President Pierce's White House. It is officially out today, and Andrew Pyper is joining us with more. How fascinating. Good to talk to you today.
Thank you. Good morning.
So what drew you to U.S. President Franklin Pierce and First Lady Jane?
Well, certainly wasn't Franklin Pierce that interested me. I'd never even heard of Franklin Pierce before I encountered Jane Pierce, his first lady and wife, and I discovered her through her letters. She wrote letters to her dead son, Benny, her most recently deceased son of her all three children, whom she lost just weeks before moving into the White House. And she wrote letters to him pleading with him to return to her. And according to her letters, he did. Not just metaphorically, but she believed that he returned to her in material form in the White House, so that there was a ghost in the White House summoned there by Jane. And as soon as I read that, I thought, I have to write this novel.
Yeah, what a starting point. What happened to Ben? You mentioned all three of her children died. So sad. Ben, I understand, was the most devastating for her. What happened to him?
Benny died in a freak train accident just weeks before the inauguration, and he was the only fatality on this derailment that was seemingly caused for no reason. The weather was clear. It was almost like it was fated, and he died right in the arms of his mother and father and the incoming president, as I say, just before the inauguration. So this was a couple that entered the White House living with incredible, almost unimaginable tragedy. And she retreated when she moved into the White House, into the second floor residence, the apartments there, and refused to come out for the duration of her term. She was suffering such great grief. And in fact, she built a grief room, which she was sort of like a shrine to her, to Benny in the White House. And it was she was called the Phantom of the White House. And many say that she is still there in ghostly form.
And you talk about this grief room. Obviously, we don't know exactly what happened in that grief room. What did you imagine?
Well, I took her letters literally, and I imagined, what if Benny did return? What if his bodily form, except in my book, it's not Benny's spirit. It's a malevolent spirit that has taken the form of Benny and is using this moment of vulnerability to gain access to the most powerful house in the world. So in a way, my novel is like an origin story for how a demon came to live in the White House. And frankly, given sort of more current events in the United States, it's a little too real, more real than I wish it was.
Well, Andrew, I understand she also invited a pair of real sisters into the White House, Kate and Maggie Fox, in to do spiritual readings. So who were these sisters?
The Fox sisters were real, as you mentioned, and they were a pair of mediums. They were the most celebrated spiritualists of their time, and they would give readings to wealthy families, couples, people. They would travel around the United States, and it was largely accepted that they were a hoax, that they did this through a series of kind of joint clicks and codes. But in later life, Kate Fox, the youngest and most gifted of the spirit mediums, if you believe it, kind of recanted her confession. So it's unclear whether they were entirely a hoax or whether one of them, Kate, was genuinely gifted. And so in my novel, Kate is a genuine spirit medium who brings a spirit back to the White House.
So fascinating. And I know the Pierces weren't the only presidential family who documented supernatural happenings in the White House. What else did you uncover?
Well, I uncovered that there's an entire and continuous history of the supernatural in the White House. So I started with the Pierces, but then, for example, President Truman, in his letters to his wife, recounts hearing scratches and knocks and voices outside of his office door as he was working on the final plans for the atom bomb. We know that Churchill saw something so terrifying staying overnight in the White House, he refused to ever return. We know that there's a photograph of a shadow figure in the basement of the White House during renovations in the 50s of a person who was never actually there. He was not part of the work crew. And so, again, in my novel, I imagine that figure is someone who the Pierces brought in 1853 and has been there ever since. But pretty much every administration has its own ghost story.
My skin is crawling right now. Andrew, it's so good to talk to you. Thanks so much. The book is called The Residents. Have a great day. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. If you like this, be sure to subscribe here.
And you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.